All right, we'll get a roll call, please.
Alderman Alden. Here. Alderman Campbell.
Here.
Alderman Flores.
Here.
Alderman Galloway.
Here.
Alderman Gardner.
Here.
Alderman Snyder.
Here.
We have 6 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, are there any motions or amendments that need to be made for October 27th, November 7th, and November 10th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 27th, November 7th, and November 10th minutes as written.
Motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Gardner to adopt the minutes of October 27th, November 7th, and November 10th as presented. All those in favor? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-1. All right, there are no ceremonial matters or scheduled visitors or guests, so we'll jump right into first reading of bills and resolutions. Mr. Campbell. Motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Flores, place bill number 3402 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for the purchase of police vehicles from En Route Enterprises LLC.
All right. Captain Hill, would you like to discuss this bill since you're the representative of the police department? Absolutely. If you come forward. Any members of the Board of Aldermen have any questions? Captain Hill? Go right ahead, sir.
We sent this out for bid, is that correct?
Yes.
How many bids did we send out?
If you'll center button. It's not all, right in the middle.
It's not. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll give it just 1 second. Everybody would like to hear your voice. I've heard that. Correct. All right, really loud because anybody that's online won't be able to hear you unless you're really loud.
We posted the bid to the candidates and clerk and anybody who was capable of bidding on it, put a bid on it. We posted the requirements for the cars we needed and
We received 1 bid back.
There we go. Then we got you.
It's my understanding nobody had cars to bid except a dealership out of Oklahoma City. They didn't choose to bid on it. They didn't see a need to.
Okay. So we only have just the 1 bid, that is correct. I just want to make
Yes,
sure that's
that is
just the 1 bid that we had left.
Yes.
I have no further questions right now.
All right. Any additional questions or comments? Excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Is there anyone in the audience? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell.
Maybe you need to call on the audience first.
Go ahead.
There is a request to expedite this bill.
Okay. Perfect.
I don't know if my timing's right on that or not.
That's all right. We know it now. Is there anyone in the audience here this evening that's here to discuss this bill? Hearing nothing, one more chance for the Board of Aldermen. Questions, comments, concerns? All right, we'll move right along. Mr. Campbell? Oh, Mr. Snyder?
No, I do. When reviewing this, I do have one particular concern about this. With the Enright Enterprises, I realize they're one of only vendor in the area that can do this. But if I'm not mistaken, there was some type of an ethics violation concern with this vendor. And I would definitely like to get some comments on that if I could.
Okay. This is for the purchase of vehicles, so there are multiple people that can do that in the area. This is the only one that chose to. This was the only responsive bid that we had.
Okay,
The next bill concerns upfitting of the vehicle, and I don't know if that's your comments are more
well, the
appropriate.
comment that I have is going to apply to both of them here.
Okay,
Both bills, and obviously I'll address into this one. But with Enright Enterprises, I do believe there was an ethics violation that was brought forth back in 2020. And I do have a reasonable concern about that. I'd like to know what the details were with that ethics violation. The way that I read it, those concerns lasted a full year. I mean, there were violations that were through the entire year. I would just like to know before we enter into this, if there's anything that we need to be concerned about with the city of Ozark pertaining to the ethics violation itself. Because to me, there are some honesty and some integrity issues at stake here. And that's my concern.
okay, Mr. Campbell.
I have spoken to the police chief at length on this, and first I would like to defer to Captain Hill if he's can answer it, or I'll answer it for what the police chief told me, either one.
Let's do the micro. You got turned off just a minute ago. Right, there we go.
I don't know the specifics to that ethics violation he's speaking of. I know Chief Arnold does. We've done business with them quite frequently over the last few years, and we've never had any issues. Nothing of concern. Everything we do is through the bid process, specified in the ordinances. So it's a local business that we're able to do business with, and it's extremely convenient business place to do business, since it is within the city limits, so, or close to thereof. So I don't know that the ethics violation you're speaking of. I believe it happened in some thing with the fire department. Is that correct?
Yes,
I don't know the specifics of that.
gotcha. It's just, my biggest concern is the fact that it did occur. And me looking into it, I just want to make sure that the city of Ozark doesn't have anything that's going to be tied or related to that for the business side of it. I believe in honesty and integrity. And I want to make sure that the persons we're dealing with this particular company is going to hold true to their honesty with us. That's my biggest concern.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes, it's my understanding when this came up once before, there was something in a packet or something that I read, but my understanding was that the violation was in 2019, and it maybe it came to light in 2020, but that's been 2 years ago, and they're the only bidder, and I think we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. If we had lots of people to choose from and everything else was equal, but that one thing, I would say absolutely, I'd rather do business with the person that didn't. But I they've got 2 cars, we need 2 cars, and I don't see where a very past ethics violation it should interfere with us purchasing the cars on the normal bidding process. So I think we should go forward with it.
Mr. Galloway?
What is the importance of expediting the bill?
We all need a vehicle, but it does take quite a lengthy time to get them upfitted and get them into service. So prolonging it would, I believe, probably take us into the next fiscal year as well. It's time, I guess, is the best way to do it and the way to put it.
It's just that I had trouble following you, and maybe it's been a long day, and is there a danger of us losing the contract or the prices going up if we don't expedite?
He's had the cars for a little bit, and it was, one of those things where he has no problem selling to anybody else, and he has no problem holding on to them for us if we choose to purchase them. However, he's had them for a little bit, and whenever we were allotted some vehicles, we checked with him just like we do anybody else. Yeah, I have some vehicles. He's the only one in this area, and the only one that we could find that wasn't either in Kentucky or Oklahoma. So that's why we he bid on them, but nobody else had any cars to provide a bid on, so.
Sure, I mean, I don't want to conflate the issues. I mean, it may be that the considerations that are being raised have to be balanced against the expediency as well, but I don't see, I guess I want to know, is there any harm that will come to the police department if we just follow our normal processes and have our second reading on a different day, and then this concern can be addressed one way or another? It's not as, that's the question, is it, do we lose something tangible here if we follow our normal processes?
I don't expect him to sell them to somebody else at this point. But I mean, he very well could.
That's concern, is that it might be sold.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the cars have been held for some time. 2 weeks ago at the legislative session of Board of Aldermen, this bill was present and it was tabled. So we have been waiting for a while. This dealer has had these vehicles and he's been holding them for us, you know, which I think shows that he's a good business partner to our community. I don't know that expediting this bill, because it's been on our ballot for some time. I don't know that expediting this bill would cause any issues other than following. And I'm a big fan of following our normal policy. I'm a huge proponent. I'm kind of the one that helped spearhead it back in the day. But the urgency of our police department needing the proper equipment, knowing that once we purchase the vehicles and we finalize this contract, then they go into being uplifted. And that takes a certain period of time. I would ask that the board go ahead and definitely consider expediting this bill so we can get this process going, because it has become quite lengthy. Mr. Gardner?
Well, if it hadn't been tabled at the last meeting, it would be on the second reading tonight. So it's essentially the same time frame. So I think we should go ahead.
Any other questions, comments? Well, if the sponsor of the bill would like to put it up for a second reading, we'll see what happens.
Yes, I make a motion, we place bill number 3402 on its second reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Gardner, to place bill number 3402 on a second reading by title and description only. All those in favor? Opposed? 4-2.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for the purchase of police vehicles from En Route Enterprises LLC.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns from members of the Board of Aldermen? Mr. Galloway?
Just so I don't confuse anybody with my vote. I did vote against expediting because I did want this issue heard, and I didn't feel that tabling something meant that it got heard. But if there aren't any other opportunities here, and I'm guessing that there aren't any on the horizon, and that probably forces my hand, but I do feel that if an ethics complaint has been filed against a company, it could be a technical violation. It could be something that can be explained. But I don't think I would want to ignore it, and I don't think I would want to not question it. So it's a give me here, and maybe it'll all be okay. So that's what I hope.
So would you like a brief explanation? Sure. As best I know, 2019, as a member of the board of directors at the fire department, services were rendered to the fire department from En Route's business owner. At that time, he did not realize that he could not complete services. This is the best I know. He did not realize that he could complete services without a formalized bid process in place. Charges were filed. The ethics commission fined him and put him on probation. And here we are a couple of years later.
But who on probation? owner?
the owner of NRAD.
Oh, I see. So he was a board member that,
He was a board member of the Ozark Fire Protection District
okay,
and did services for the Ozark Fire Protection District. He was hired by their interim chief to perform services without a formalized bid process in place.
Gotcha.
That is the nature of his violation.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, Mr. Campbell,
I make a motion to place bill number 3402. I'm sorry, I make a motion to adopt bill number 3402 as ordinance number 22-063.
motion was made by Alderman Campbell, second by Alderman Gardner to adopt bill number bill number 3402 as ordinance number 22-063. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Gardner. Alderman Snyder. We have 5 aye votes, 1 nay, motion carries.
Mr. Campbell,
Make a motion, we place bill number 3403 on its first reading by title only.
motion was made by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3 on its first reading by title and description. In favor?
Authorizing the city to enter in for services with En route LLC for police vehicle upfitting.
All right. Captain Hill could come back forward if anybody has any questions or comments with regards to the bill as it's written. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Captain Hill with regards to this bill?
Yeah.
Mr. Gardner,
Just curious, when we take one Dodge Charger out of service and buy another one, is any of that equipment be able to be used in the new one?
Yes, as much as we can move over. Some of it does become obsolete depending on the year of the vehicle. We are entering into a set of years where they are identical, so we will be able to reuse equipment on some degree. Some of the stuff is older stuff that we may find other purposes for it in different vehicles, but we do our best to use as much of the equipment over as we can.
any additional questions for Captain Hill? All right, did a wonderful job explaining that. Is there anyone in the audience here this evening to speak on behalf of this bill? None? Like this bill as well, Mr. Campbell? Okay, is there any other while it's on its first reading? Hearing none, Mr. Campbell?
Make a motion to place bill number 3403 on its second final reading by title only.
Motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Gardner, to place bill number 3403 on its second reading by title and description only. What was in favor? Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for services with En route Enterprises LLC for police vehicle upfitting.
All right, any additional questions or comments with regards to the bill? Hearing none.
I do have a question.
Okay,
Since this is the last meeting in November, and if this was on put on a second reading in December, we're only looking at a couple of weeks. I'm just wondering, and maybe Captain Hill could tell us, if we stuck with our policy of trying to get 2 weeks and not expediting, would they even be able to start on these before the first meeting in December? To allow us, pardon me, to allow us to stick to the policy that most people prefer, and that's not expediting.
I don't believe if it was expedited tonight that they would start on them before the next meeting. But to get the slots to get them upfitted, we would need to go ahead.
Oh,
pass it.
Like a reservation to get them in the shop to?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, all right, well. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll call you back up in a few minutes for something else.
Give him time to get back to the seat.
I'm gonna make sure you get your steps in tonight. All right. Mr. Campbell, if you would.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we adopt bill number 3403 as ordinance number 22-064.
Motion was made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Gardner to adopt bill number 3403 as ordinance number 22-064. May I get a roll call, please?
Alderman Snyder.
Nay.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, 1 nay, motion carries.
Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3406 on its first reading by title only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Flores to place bill number 3406 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance approving the fee study establishing certain city fees.
All right. We have different fees concerning different departments, and if anyone has any questions specifically for each one of the departments heads are here this evening, and they will be able to answer any questions that you may have with regards to the changes. Does anybody have any questions for any of the departments? All right, well, we'll jump to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone in the audience here this evening that would like to speak on behalf of this bill? Hearing none, one more chance for the members of the board. Mr. Campbell.
This would be for Mr. Smith. You may have explained this, but on the first page of that page right there, a little bit below halfway down, looks like we eliminated the PUD preliminary plan and the PUD sketch plan. Tell me what that means.
Yeah, and I kind of highlighted that through the explanation sheet, but what we've done is we've consolidated those all under the PUD plan. So we took 3 permits, consolidated them into one, because with that process, you're automatically going to be doing those tasks. And so, yeah, that's why. And if you look at the price of the original PUD plan did come up quite a bit because we consolidated those 3 into 1 permit.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? For the department heads? Any at all? Going once, twice? All right. This bill will be held over till the next legislative session. Mr. Gardner.
Motion we put bill 3407 on its first reading.
Motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place bill number 3407 on its first reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for the purchase of equipment from Huber Technology Incorporated.
Mr. Parsons.
Yes, good evening. We've got a PowerPoint presentation here. Yes, that should kind of help explain because this is technical equipment and I'm a visual person, so Mr. Childers, I can either operate or you can just go, or you can just scroll down to the second one. I don't think you have it on slideshow. But while he's getting that prepared, this step screen is kind of our first line of defense in the influence of our treatment plant. I wanted to provide you with kind of an overview of the North Treatment Plant. This is the one, the old plant, basically due south of the McDonald's. flower shop there. Well, the area that I'm speaking to tonight, and I want to kind of inform you about, is in the headworks. It's over here on the bottom right-hand side. Again, that is our first line of defense. Everything from the northern area of Ozarks comes in through the headworks. And in this case, we immediately try to filter out any inorganics. By that, I mean things such as plastics, syringes, Q-tips. I mean, you name it, it's in there. In fact, we've got a video here that we can show as well, but it is, it is interesting, and it's interesting to see what we're trying to keep out of the system. So if you go, let's go to the next slide here. The step screen that we're referring to tonight, here's a couple of images, and there's a picture on the right of what it actually does. To me, imagine it kind of like a escalator. And what this does is, as the main influent comes in through the headworks, it catches the larger material and then steps them up to the top there and then dumps over to the side. That material, plastics, Q-tips, things of all that nature, ends up going into a screw press basically, and then dumped into a 3-yard dumpster. What we've had occur, there's just another technical image of it. What we've had occur is a massive mechanical failure. That's not supposed to look like that. So basically those lamellas encountered some sort of object that just threw the entire step screen off track. As you'll see, this is a very expensive piece of equipment, but it's not one that we can just simply have in our inventory. So when this happened, we immediately went into plan B mode. And in order to prevent all the buildup and the clogging and any type of clarification problems, we installed a bar screen. Imagine a bypass around that and a bar screen. And if any of you are into a gold digger, it reminds you of a grizzly screen. It's your first line of defense when you're dumping material in, and it keeps out the larger objects. So that's currently what we're using right now. It's not nearly as sophisticated as a step screen, but it works. It is much more labor intensive because you don't have mechanics working in your favor. What you have is more time where you have to go out and brush off the screen and then get that inorganic material off the screen. So we've made do, and we can continue to make do, because as with anything in the sewer and water world, you gotta have a plan B. So we're on plan B right now. The step screen that we have received a bid on this evening has multiple great components to it. The bottom line is, just think of it as our first line of defense, and we need something in there to keep those plastics and inorganics out of our treatment plant. The last thing we want to do is send any plastic or any other type of material out the effluent or the outfall into the river. We take a lot of pride in our treatment process. In fact, our crew does a great job, and we work very closely with DNR. They even bring groups down here to train them, and those guys take a lot of pride in that. We are a river city, and we love our river, and we need to get this put in place as quickly as possible. The bidding process, we advertise bids. We only received one qualified bidder. We actually got responses from 2 different companies, but one sent it in on time. The other did not make the cutoff. We're very happy with Huber Technologies. We actually have a similar unit out at the new plant, and it has functioned flawlessly. So there's some benefits to that in terms of we've got experience with the equipment. And if there's, you know, how we talk about this all the time, redundancy. If we've got another similar piece of machinery, we can kind of pick and pull, if you will, from those other pieces and get it up and functioning. So our bid came in at $87,000, a little over $87,000. That includes, they'll send a project manager down here. We're going to do the bulk of the work, just with our crew, but they will help us with the startup to make sure that the warranty is basically honored, because if they're not here to start it up, they're not going to honor that warranty. So that's pretty critical to us to make sure we got that. I didn't show the video. But it's right there at the bottom if you want to see a video of how this works. PIO and I think it was Brooke at the time and Sam made a great video. Do you want to click on it? Do you want to learn more about sewer tonight? If it does click, did you hit it? The gist of it was a really exciting sewer video. 55 seconds with good music and good information. But it's on the website, it's on the video page. You have to just scroll down to Public Works and you can look at those. But we do try to do a job of letting them know if it's not meant to flush down a toilet, please do not flush it down a toilet. That includes flushable wipes. I know they say flushable on them, but when you see that, just know that that is not the case. Here we go. And again, this is just to educate the community. And I figured we have it. It's something that we can show. There's the step screen right there. You can kind of see all the different materials that have not made it through the different lift stations and haven't been grinded up, basically. And we typically get about 3 yards, a standard size dumpster a week of those materials out of that influence. But there are some interesting things. Hats off to the guys and a crew that works on this. But again, we like to put out as many videos as possible. I think it actually got several views, too. Yes, this one in the flushable wipes got a lot of likes and a lot of views. So see, other people get excited about sewer too.
You're not alone.
Not alone. But we do take a lot of pride in you know what comes through our plant. And yeah, and that was just a quick little video. I don't know what it's showing now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and escape that. All right.
But anyways, that's where we're at. It's gonna take some time to get that piece of machinery in here. With that, I open it up to any questions that you might have about this piece of equipment.
Ms. Alder.
I just had a question. Did those items just come from toilets? The
Yeah.
sewer? Just toilets?
Essentially, those all come through toilets, floor drains, whatever gets into our sewer system.
Okay.
But a lot of it comes through the toilets. Things like Q-tips, a lot of toys. You wouldn't believe how many toys we find out there. Anybody wants some? No.
I have a 2-year-old grandson, so you're right. I understand about toys in the toilet.
Yeah. Yes, you're welcome.
All right, any additional question? Oh, we got a couple of lights over here. Mr. Campbell.
I assume we've already got the power requirements there. Or is it?
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, everything's set up and ready to go. It's going to be a matter of just replacing that component. So, okay.
No, mine's more of a comment than anything. City manager and I went out there. I had actually got a tour of this place. It's actually impressive for what it is. It really is. You wouldn't think that looking at doo-doo is impressive. It's impressive. Okay. That piece of equipment we talked about is something that cannot be fabricated. Is that correct? That it actually has to have a manufacturer come in and put it in.
That's correct. Yeah, if we could have figured out a way to Ozark a fix, which we really did with the bypass, but if we could have figured out a way, we would have been there. We've got a lot of talented people that are craftsmen, really. And you're right, they do a great job. And we open it up to anybody. Alderman Snyder came out probably about 2 months ago and had a great visit. And it is impressive what they do there.
Yeah, and this one, make sure folks know that it's something that we cannot repair because of the patent issue and things of that nature.
Absolutely. It is a proprietary piece of machinery and it is something that we cannot fabricate in-house.
All right, thank you.
All right, any additional questions, comments from the board? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk about sewer and the purchase of this equipment? Mr. Currents, if you'd come forward. If you'll come forward, name and address to the clerk, please.
Don Currents, and my address is 1202 East Melanie Lane here in Ozark.
And your question?
Yeah, I saw that in the paperwork, it said that the installation and building modification is not part of the price. Is that something y'all are doing?
That's correct. I'll kind of share so they can hear. So what we're having somebody as a project manager come out and make sure that it's all set up correctly. They're not going to be doing the actual install, but they'll have a project manager come out, make sure it's all correctly so that we can honor that warranty. So.
Perfect. Anyone else? Hearing no additional questions from the audience, one last chance for the members of the Board of Aldermen. All right, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. All right, Mr. Flores.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill 3376 on its first reading by title.
Would anyone like to second this bill?
Well, I think your discussion, I'll second it. I don't know what.
All right. Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Gardner to place bill number 3376 on its first reading, this time by title and description only. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
An amended ordinance amending the zoning code and official map by changing the zoning classification of certain property 10 acres in size bordered by Longview Road.
Mr. Smith, would you like to give a quick overview? No?
I'm not sure.
All right. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Flores then.
I do believe that we had the developer had something prepared to show. It's pretty much the exact same thing that was presented the first time.
Was any new evidence?
Yeah, so obviously there's been a lot of conversation about this. I think everybody's fully familiar with where we began. It is my understanding that the original proposal is the same proposal in the bill tonight. It was discussed quite extensively between the liaison of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Flores, and the developer, and that what opportunities might exist to alleviate some of the concerns of the neighboring subdivision, Ozark Heights. And it was talked about possibly could single family residential work on part of it? Could we do something different with buffers, so forth and so on, maybe height restrictions? And what the staff had proposed, just for everybody to remember, is called the conditional overlay. There's a process in the city of Ozark that when a request is made to rezone property or develop property, that it is the opportunity to use a conditional overlay. And what that means is certain conditions can be placed on that request, on that property for the zoning and the development that might alleviate some concerns that may exist with the proposal. And so we did talk about that. That was offered. And again, that is something that the developer is choosing not to want to do and modify the application. So I tell you all that because, again, I believe that what you're looking at is exactly what you had previously seen with regarding the request and the zoning to R3. Ms. Callaway.
Just a point of clarification, there's been a lot of amendments to this bill. The bill in front of you does contain the conditional overlay in the section 2. So the bill that came forward from the liaison does contain the conditional overlay, and the factors are listed in that section.
But the zoning is still requesting to be R3.
That's correct.
Right.
Mr. Gardner.
Thank you.
So the conditional overlay is limiting the height of the buildings to 1 story in that first 10 acres. Is that correct?
The first 10 acres, yes.
Yeah.
The westernmost portion.
But other than that, there are no changes in the developer's application other than that was placed on that. Is that correct?
other than I think a couple more amenities, small amenities, I think that was really it. That I was aware of, yeah, so it still has the conditional overlay, but it's pretty much what we saw the first time.
Well, I would like to hear again from the developer as to why he thinks we should approve it.
Yep. We can bring that forward. Come on up, sir. If you wouldn't mind, name and address to the clerk.
My name is Dave Sladen, 2107 East Rockhurst, Springfield, Missouri.
And I'll just, for a point of clarification, or remind everybody, anybody that addresses the Board of Aldermen this evening, you're more than willing, or you're more than able to. If you'll just fill out the slips in the back of the room and pass that information to the clerk. Even though you're giving it in person, we'd like to have it written down as well. So anybody that addresses the Board of Aldermen, if you'll follow that policy, we'd appreciate it. The floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. I think I'd like to start off by saying thank you very much to the board. I appreciate the advice that we were given a few weeks back. Like we were advised to take some time and think about what was discussed and some of the concerns that were voiced, and that was helpful. It gave us the ability to meet with the homeowners association for Ozark Heights and visit with their board and get some input and just have some open dialogue. It also gave us the ability to get with our engineers and see what kind of improvements that we could make to the proposal. And we feel that we've came up with a very good plan that should address the majority of the concerns that we heard from the community, as well as make some improvements on the amenities that the board was interested in seeing. Before we get to the amenities, I'd like to touch first, just briefly, if we could, on some of the constructive things that the development will bring to the city of Ozark. First, if we could look at the zoning map real quick. If everyone will look, the 25 acres that our family owns is highlighted in yellow there. Just to the north, all the zoning around that property in Ozark Heights is a mixed use area, if you will. The property just to the north across the road, as I understand it right now, is industrial. If you go a little farther to the east, right across the road, there's a mobile home park. If you go a little farther to the east, there's some older two-story apartments. And then the property just to the east, just on the other side of our fence, is currently zoned commercial 1. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that is the loosest commercial zoning that there is, that allows for anything to be put in there that would serve the public. That could be a gas station, it could be a restaurant, it could be a strip center with various types of businesses in there. And in my opinion, I think the board has an opportunity here to utilize the 25 acres that we have as a buffer to the folks in Ozark Heights, because the land just to the east of us, if there's a convenience store or if there's a restaurant in there, they're going to have deliveries in there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'll have deliveries at 2 o'clock in the morning. And when they have their backup beep, 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 sirens going off and their headlights shining, that could be going directly into Ozark Heights. And planning and zoning, communities across the United States utilize multifamily to protect and buffer R1 areas. And this is a perfect example where if the board will consider rezoning this to multifamily, we could be the buffer that would protect Ozark Heights from unpleasant noise, unpleasant things that would come from the commercial zoning. I think it's also fair to say that no one's going to come in there and buy that 25 acres and put in another Ozark Heights. It's with the zoning that's already in place, that's not a possibility. It just wouldn't make sense to extend that much money out to put in another R1 neighborhood. And it's also fair to say that no one's going to buy that piece of property and build a multi-million-dollar home. You have a commercial piece of property just to the east. You have a trailer park directly to the north. So the R3 zoning is a tool that the board could use to protect the folks in Ozark Heights. We also heard a lot of thoughts and comments in regards to the roads not being wide enough, the intersections in Ozark needing attention. The police department was supposedly understaffed. The schools were full and needed more teachers. And I agree. I agree with some of that. But I think the important thing is the fact that the community needs to understand that if they want those things fixed, if they want more teachers and if they want more new police cars, that it takes tax dollars and budget money to get those things improved and to make improvements. And I looked and I think we're paying $300 a year on taxes for this 25 acres as it stands right now. And just rough calculations, some estimated numbers with the development that we'd like to put in here. From what we've estimated, a conservative figure would be $60,000 that we would be paying in taxes each year to the city of Ozark, in conjunction with the 100 ballpark families that would be moving into that area. They'd be buying gas and loaves of bread and gallons of milk, and they'd be buying pizza. So they'd be kicking in extra tax revenue as well. So it's safe to say that there's easily $70,000 worth of tax revenue that's going to come into the city if we can move forward with our project. And I know that that's not a huge amount of money when it comes to running a city, but it certainly helps, and it's an annual thing that keeps coming year after year after year. And one of the real benefits is that money comes to the city, and you guys don't have to ask the city of the citizens to raise taxes. You don't have to increase taxes on anybody. The majority of that will come from the development itself.
If you don't mind, just a point of clarification when talking about property taxes, the 60,000 that it possibly will generate, the city of Ozark will get about 2% of that 60,000. The rest of it is divided up amongst all the other taxing districts.
Good.
So the school, about 70% of that.
So those funds would go to help this Ozark.
It would help the school. I just want to make sure that anybody that's watching this or anybody in the audience understands that 60,000 potential generated revenue will not come to the city of Ozark. It will come to all the 14, 15 taxing districts, which we accumulate about 2% of the total tax bill at the city of Ozark.
So some of those funds could go to put a new teacher in place.
Yes.
Okay, good. Also from just from an economic impact, there's a lot of work to put something like this into play. There's concrete that has to be poured, framers will have to be hired, the trades will have to come in. There's a lot of work that could benefit the Ozark community if the development is approved. And then there's also roughly 100 new families that would hypothetically move into the area. And if you drive around town, you see help wanted signs everywhere. I don't know if 2 of these people or 10 of these people would find work in Ozark, but I'm certain that would be a benefit, having more people for the city of Ozark to draw from for their workforce. And then I'd also like to address a few of the concerns that we heard. One of them that we heard in previous meetings were the facts that the yards would not be kept up. So what we've agreed to do is we, as the owners, will be responsible for the yards. That will be part of the lease, and the folks that live there, they don't have to worry about the yard. We'll hire the lawn crew and we'll make sure that it's kept right. Something else that we heard that was a concern was the trash would pile up. And in an effort to address that, we've also agreed to bring the trash service as part of the lease. We'll hire one trash contractor that will come in once a week. Everybody will have a cart, goes down to the end of the road, and the day goes back up. Then that way you don't have any excuse for trash piling up. And then water runoff, that was also a concern with the folks in Ozark Heights, and I understand their concern. Communities rely on development to improve the water runoff. It's not up to us to how to handle this. The engineers and the soil and water departments tell us what needs to be done. And as a 25-acre piece of ground gets developed, it has to be better after we're done than when we started. So developing that 25 acres would actually help the water runoff situation that the Ozark Heights folks deal with right now, and it would also help people downstream. And then last but not least, there was comments made that we didn't care about Ozark and we were just in it for the money. And that's wrong. That is not a fair statement. The fact is, my wife and I have either lived in Ozark or in the very near proximity. Our whole adult life, we've had family members that have had kids go through the Ozark schools. And my wife, she also reminded me that our marriage certificate was signed on the courthouse, at the courthouse there in Ozark. So we do care about Ozark. We're not some out-of-state investors that are just looking to come in here and throw up some cheap track homes and get out of Dodge. We've been very of the American Public Works Association, as well as the National Association of County Engineers for over 20 years. We're very aware of the environment, and anything that we do, we definitely want to make it better than we left it or than we found it. We're excited about Ozark's future. Ozark is a really neat town. It's got a great location. It's got great schools. It's got great leadership, and we're not here just for one project. That's not our objective. If we could maybe take a peek at that. Oh, great. Yeah. Just wanted to share with everybody some examples of what we'd like to put in that area. These are some multifamily in the east side of Springfield. You can see they're brick and rock, landscape. Here it is again from a different angle. Nice places, very nice. This is a complex here in Ozark. Again, a nice exterior, clean, manicured. This is a property over on along Highway 65 in the Ingram Mill area. Again, 2-car garage, brick, well maintained. And that's really what we're wanting to do and put there. We don't want a land of vinyl and a bunch of cheap low-end rentals. These are going to be nicer places, granite countertops, irrigated yards, hardwood floors. We'd also like to put in some ADA compliant units. So in the event that someone needs a little help in their living situation, that would be an option. I mentioned that we're not just wanting to come to Ozark for one development. We also had 15 acres that kind of surrounds the B&D Theater, and this is it here. Our objective would be to start development on the Longview property, get phase 1 of that up and going. And then we'd like to move over here to this tract of land that we own. We've already worked with MoDOT. We have access off of Highway 14 going into the property, and we've started some preliminary survey work. But our objective here would be to put in a mixed use type of a setting, some office, some retail, and also some possible multifamily here as well. But that's one of the reasons that we're concerned with Ozark's the direction it's going, and we've invested a sizable amount of capital because we believe in Ozark and its future, and we want to be a part of that in a constructive manner and not do anything that's going to take away from the city. As far as the amenities go, this is actually different than the first drawing that we had. I know the board asked for us. And we looked at the swimming pool option, we kicked it around and we tried to make it work. But the challenge that we came up with from a swimming pool standpoint, a swimming pool gets used from basic Memorial Day to Labor Day. And then even in that time period, it typically gets used by one demographic, and that's kids. And we have absolutely nothing against kids. We have a house full of kids ourselves. We love them. But what we wanted to try to do here was to put something together that would be used year round. It would be used by all age groups. And it would be something that the community could use. And it wouldn't be something that we had to try to keep people out. If anybody's ever been down towards the Rogers, Bentonville, Fayetteville area, the trail system that they have down there is really neat. And I know the Chadwick Flyer, that's got a lot of good momentum going in the Ozark area. And we've laid this subdivision out in a way that if that trail were to need to come through our property, we designed it so the trail or an access trail could be put in place. But the amenities that we came up with that could be used by anybody in the community. There's a pond down there. First thing we go in there and clean that thing out, stock it with fish, and anybody in Ozark would be welcome to use that. We're not going to try to keep outside people from using our amenities. There'd be a pond that would be stocked with fish. There would be also, I think there's a teeter totter. We put a picnic area in there. It would be a picnic table and barbecue grill. There's a putting green in there. There's also frisbee basket golf scheduled 2 or 3 places in there. So if the walking trail goes in, that would be a really neat thing for people using that trail to stop and enjoy. And if the trail doesn't go in, it's not a problem. We just have more green space and more area for the folks to get out and enjoy. But so in conclusion, and on behalf of our family, we're asking the board to go ahead and move forward with the R3 zoning that we've requested so we can get this development move forward and hopefully be a good partner with the community. That's our objective. We're not here just for one job. Any questions or anything I can help with?
Mr. Gardner.
I've got lots of questions, Mr. Slayton. You said R3, and I know some of those buildings are going to be R3, but some of them are shown to be R2, or not R2, but because you can build a duplex in an R3 zone. Right. But some of those are shown to be duplexes. So my concern, quite frankly, is the density so close to Ozark Heights, which is an unusual subdivision. It's a single family subdivision. And I understand that, and everybody here understands that multifamily can sometimes be an appropriate use between commercial and single family. But I think you also have to pay attention to the effect that whatever you're going to do is going to have on what's already there. Now, that commercial that you're talking about on the east end, on that 90-degree curve, nobody's looked at that for years. So I mean, it's zoned that way. But I'm concerned, or not concerned, but curious if you discussed or considered single family on the part of that, and if you decided not.
One good question. The reasons, as we the hill there, back there, on the north. Corner, in order to do a single family, that road, because the house is going to have to be lettered right up against the neighborhood, to the west. So that was a part of our thinking. We didn't want to squash and put the house right up against there. And also, just to be quite honest with you, to do that, you're going to end up with some real cookie cutter, plain Jane properties that we didn't we don't want to be a part of anything that looks, we'd much rather come in there and dress that place out and make it look right than to try to go in there and put, and trust me, we did. We got with the engineers, we invested time and resources to explore the idea of the single family. And by the time it was all said and done, in order to make it work, it was gonna have to be cheap. You can't rent.
Are you saying cheap or small?
Both.
Why would it have to be cheap? It could be small.
Well, you couldn't brick those units, those small homes, you couldn't brick them and dress them out the way that we want to and still be competitive in the rent market. And that's why that's one of the reasons that we went back to this and tried to include the amenities that could be used year round by everybody. And by moving those, that first road farther to the east, it got the buildings off of the property line. We've already agreed to the conditional overlay, and also to the buffer strip. So those are some things that we've agreed to, and by pushing it a little farther to the east, it made it a little safer for traffic. And then it also just gave more space for the neighborhood.
Did all of the examples that you showed of the duplexes, or they appeared to be duplexes, not multiple single family units that were like a 3 or 4plex, but were all those built by you all?
No, the pictures that I showed,
Yeah,
they were actually 5, 6plexes. They weren't duplexes.
well, did you build them?
In answer to that, no, we did not build those properties.
Okay. Yeah, because that looks like Deerbrook right there.
Yeah, that's in Ozark.
Yeah.
Very nice development.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something similar to what we would really like to develop here.
Well, once we agree to this, we can't, we don't have any control over what you build. Just so you know. So, what kind of buffer are you talking about, and what kinds of steps are you going to take, if any? Well, I shouldn't say that. Forgive me for saying if any. What kind of steps would you take to keep your people corralled into your development and not using the amenities of the neighbor?
Good question. I think your first question was what are we doing for a buffer strip?
Mm-hmm.
We've visited with planning and zoning, and we have two options. We can either do a natural strip with a certain amount of trees and a certain amount of bushes and a berm planted every so often, or we could go in there with a privacy fence.
Well, we talked about that before, and as I remember, it was a 5-foot high berm, 25 feet from front to back. But how far down, or a privacy fence? But how far down is it going to go? Because the neighbors' amenities are in the southwest corner, and the buffer looks like it stops before you get there.
This area and this wall and that'll be part of the water retention. And if we need to bring the buffer strip down, that whole area, which is really rough. But if we needed to bring it all the way down.
Well, I'm just concerned about how easy it's going to be for your people to, the people that live there, which are perfectly nice people, but if they don't have amenities and they see them across the way, it's going to be very natural, particularly for children, to want to go partake.
I understand. And that's one of the reasons that we added the amenities that we did. And in our lease, we agreed also to put in a line in there that says that in order to utilize the Ozark Heights amenities, you have to be an invited guest. That is private property. That could be part of our lease so that we have everybody sign when they move in.
Are you going to be there to police that?
There will be somebody there. It won't be me.
There'll be somebody from your company, because you said you're going to keep this, not sell it. There's going to be somebody from your company that's there making sure that the people that live there don't go over to Ozark Heights to use basketball and swimming, which is much more popular than Frisbee golf and picnic tables.
we have intentions of having an on-site manager that would be responsible to keep the area policed, clean, picked up, and if there is nuisance or problems like that, that's what an on-site manager is there for. So in answer to your question, yes, there would be somebody from the company there to help monitor those types of situations.
How would you suggest the people from Ozark Heights interact with your company or your manager when there are instances where there are intrusions, people that were uninvited using the amenities of Ozark Heights?
Good question. As I met with the board for the homeowners association, I gave them my card. They can contact me direct. I'd be glad to introduce the on-site manager to the board and they could contact them direct as well.
So the buffer that you are proposing or going to, you're saying cannot go all the way down because of the grade of the land or the roughness, or?
I don't know if it can or can't, but if we need to extend it all the way down, we're not looking at that much more square footage. And here again, that is retention area. I know that the engineers will utilize that pond, and then the overflow will be in that general area.
All right.
Thank you. You bet. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the Board of Aldermen? All right, we'll open up the public hearing portion of this bill. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this bill, now would be your opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Go ahead and give your name and address to the clerk, but if you will, before you leave this evening, if you'll fill out one of those slips in the back of the room and make sure that she gets it.
All right, my name is Chris Lewis. I live at 2736 North 24th Street in Ozark. Appreciate everybody's time here. I think you guys have heard our concerns. As you can see on the screen here, I live at 2736 North 24th Street, which is at the very bottom corner of that property that the gentleman was talking about. So I have concerns about what Councilman Gardner brought up about people coming across, because they're probably coming across through my backyard. Issue to his point earlier about his approval zoning on that, no control over what he does or doesn't do. Whether he has an on-site manager, whether they put amenities like that. You know, it's not his backyard that they're putting 100 doors in, it's my backyard. And all I would ask yourself in my position and think about, if that was your backyard, do you want 100 doors going in there? He talked about having individual trash containers. We have that problem already with the mobile home unit and the apartment complex there to the north. All those trash units just sit out on the road. They stay out there the whole time. All you got to do is go drive down 21st Street and you can see it. I'm sure those apartments were nice at one time also. And they talk about putting in nice units, but there's no guarantee they're going to be nice. There's no guarantee they're going to keep them nice. There's no guarantee they're going to have something in their lease. If they have it in their lease, there's no guarantee that they'll be able to police it and enforce it. So, you know, I have a family there. I moved there 8-9 years ago, and you know, we've raised our kids there. There's a lot of families in Ozark Heights that raise their families there. And all I would ask is that you put yourself in our position and think about it in terms of, would you want 100 doors going in your backyard? And I would just ask that you vote no on R3 zone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Feel free. Whoever would like to come speak, if there's an open mic, go right ahead. Just need your name and address, and don't forget to fill out the card at the table.
John Smith, we're at 3003 North 24th Street, just up the way from
I'm in charge of maintaining our swimming pool and our recreational area in Ozark Heights. I can tell you that if, it doesn't matter if there's a fence, it doesn't matter about anything. Because the entrance to this building is half a block away from our main entrance. There's nothing that can be done to prohibit outsiders from coming into Ozark Heights and using amenities other than our self-policing. And it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. The swimming pool, we've got that lock and key. You have to have a key to get in. The only way into the pool, if you don't have a key, is over the fence. That's after hours. Okay, we do a lot of that patrolling. We don't have to use our police department. We take care of it ourselves. We keep it clean. We keep nets. We put up new goals, put up new volleyball net, put up new tennis court net. We pay $425 a year to keep those services for our residents. And now you're talking about 100 more families, not people, families. We only have 146 in our neighborhood. And now you want to almost double that. And you've basically given them nothing but a walking trail and a picnic table. So it's in our best interest to fight this. Not that we don't want those people, not that we have anything against those people. We have against the development that close to our properties.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I remember to take my hat off this time. Phil Webb, 2808 North 24th Street, Ozark Heights. And I appreciate all of you as alderman, and I appreciate you hearing us all out. And boy, this is a tough one. It's a tough one because we've got all these nice homes and we've invested our lives in it. Everything I own is in that house, and I don't own anything, but everything I own is in it. And I appreciate you being concerned about what goes next door. I still feel kind of a buffer. The berm. How many times have you ever heard anybody come anytime, any homeowner association say, come over and see our berm? We got the most beautiful berm. It's easy to mow. It's easy to take care of. It just does a wonderful job. And the way that one is set up is going to stop right about before my backyard. There's a lot of water comes off the houses north of me to go into that property and into that pond that's there on the property now. What doesn't go in there comes through my backyard. My fence is about 6-8 inches above the ground where the water has washed underneath it and gone. And now you're going to take all of that property up there and run it all through my backyard and those south of me. It's going to take a real genius to make that work. And I hope that whatever you do, you're able to do that, because I've got a lot of water come through my yard. It go into that pond, and some of it goes to the south of the pond that don't even go into the pond. But then there's a lot of it does go into the pond from north of me, which I don't get. And I really don't need any more of that. And that's going to be a real tricky outfit for you. And I understand there's no limit on height anywhere on that. Is that what they're saying?
There is a conditional overlay beyond the western portion.
There will be,
yes,
just single family. Single story next to us.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate them making that. I know that if we don't ask and we don't know, I'm curious to know how far that house is off the property line that's closest down at the bottom there. How far is that off the property line? I don't know.
Mr. Smith, do you have a guesstimate? based off
Right,
the ordinances.
I mean, it's going to meet a requirement of setbacks, just like any single family would have to be certain distance from a property line. So until they get it designed, it's probably 30 feet. At
30.
minimum, but I mean, they can be further. just
Yeah.
like,
30 feet at the minimum.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate that. And the area around the old pond that's there is going to be a park. Right? I mean, it's where all the amenities are going to be
As proposed.
as proposed. All that's going to be right there. Okay. West of the pond is where I'm at. So everybody that comes down there, some of the fences in Ozark Heights are just 4 feet. In fact, there's some on that property line that's just 4 feet high.
Mhm.
And they've not had to have any real tall fences. I thought, well, let's just put a brick wall back there about 12 feet high, solid brick, the whole thing. And I thought, highly probably we call it Ozark Heights Penitentiary. We don't want to do that. But I appreciate the effort here, and I appreciate all of you. I know you're limited by the laws and rules and regulations about us, and I appreciate that. And I want to say I appreciate my Ozark Heights neighbors. They've all been wonderful. They've been nice. They've come to the microphones and they've been presented their and asked you to do what you could to help us, and we appreciate that. I wish that diversity was a little more willing to do. I mean, I think it's probably, they're going to make money. Doesn't matter what to do with it. They're going to make money or they're going to do it, period. And I wish they were willing to say, we're going to sacrifice a little more to give you a little more of a buffer here. I've never thought about apartments being a buffer to homes. The home on the corner up there just north of me, that home is probably $500,000, $600,000. I know mine's not quite that big or that expensive, but it's pretty expensive. And I want to make sure I protect my property values and my neighbors as well, and everybody out there. But I wish they could come up with a little. They've not moved a lot. I know whenever they did visit our board, one of our board members asked, if you lived in Ozark Heights and you were going to put that there next door to you, would you like it? And they said no. But they want to do it anyway. That concerns me. I think surely, gosh, we're just going to rocket to the moon. We're going to put one on Mars here one of these days. Surely these guys can come up with some kind of a little better buffer situation and put, for us over there on that east side. And I'm not going to apologize that my property has made theirs worth a lot more. I am not going to apologize for that. I appreciate the fact that all that we have and we take care of in Ozark Heights, we've got great neighbors and great people. Gosh, all of us around us are nice people. We get along well. And we want to get along with them as well. But this is going to make it a little bit harder and difficult. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate you for representing all of us. Thank you all.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Anyone else this evening on this bill?
Right, Lindsay, 2308 Lakeside Court. I have several concerns with this piece of property being rezoned to multifamily homes. My primary thing is, number one, I'd say, is that we are an R1A and R1B community. The property that's south of this piece of property is zoned R1C, if I'm not mistaken. And now they want to put in this multifamily homes within this area. I just don't think that's a good fit. My opinion, which for whatever that counts, apartments or multifamily homes should have an area of their own, not mixed in with residential homes. My second concern is, and it's my understanding, the proven fact that when you have multifamily homes, you're going to have increase in crime. Are we going to have to build a fence between us and them to keep them from fishing in our pond, playing on our playground equipment, jumping the fence, get into our pool. We've had problems with this in the past. I several times have had to keep people from fishing in our pond. They say to mitigate the water issue. When you add more parking lots, how can you take care of that water? When you have roofs and parking lots, where's that water going? It's not going to penetrate the soil, it's going to go on downstream. Even though if they do have a containment, that water has to leave that containment at some point. But I'd like for y'all to think about it, you know, our concerns. So thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Robert Weiner, 2710 Heights Lane. I want to thank you guys for listening to us. I know we seem to be complaining a lot, but I kind of think we have a point. This has happened to me 3 times in my life, or twice in my life. I lived in Springfield. I'm going to show my age here, but before they built all that Best Buy and Best Buy over there on Glenstone, I lived on 1863 Meadow, at a basement house. It had never flooded for as long as we lived there. They built all that stuff up and water came rushing. I live over south of Sunset, and excuse me, south of Sunset, they built some apartment complexes 3 miles away, and the water came flooding into my backyard under my house, and I had to do all kinds of neat ditch digging to keep it from happening again. I will say it's kind of nice to sneak this in on a Monday afternoon when all my neighbors are out of town for vacation. So I'm gonna speak for some of them. I have a few notes here. Second. My understanding, the zoning commission was against this already. Is that not right? I just wanted to make that a point. And he did say if a lot, like if the trail goes in, I was kind of excited about the teeter totters, but they're not nearly as cool as our pool. The pond, if it goes in, I don't think you can actually fish in our pond because it's got a rubber lining and folks will drain it out. But the ifs were really bugging me because, like you said, if you approve this, you can't control what he builds on there. We didn't have to build any of the stuff he's saying that he's going to put on there. I'm just going to go ahead and stop talking right now. I do appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anyone else here this evening on this topic? All right, hearing no additional comments, I'll give one last chance for the members of the Board of Aldermen. Hearing none, this bill to be held over until the, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it jump in at the last second.
I would like to ask anybody from Ozark Heights that wants to respond. What about his thoughts that this would be better than having something less there? Does anybody want to say what you feel about that? Do you think maybe his development is better than what you might get from that property?
Got my name again. Ron Smith, 3003 North 24th Street. How can we conjecture what might be? We don't know what else could go there. We don't, unless this, I mean, if this doesn't get approved this time for this plan, something else is going to come up and say, well, let's then let's do this. And we start all over again. You know, we have a voice and we have to use our voice and say, this isn't the answer. you've got this property, you want to do something with it, that's fine. But let's find an answer that's agreeable to everyone. And this isn't it. Multi-story apartments, and doubling the size of our proximate community. It's just not, it's not it.
That property.
I don't know very much about the property other than that back part where the existing pond is kind of a mess. The turkeys like it. The deer like it, the coyotes like it. Let them have it.
But the chances of it staying that way are kind of slim.
Oh, I agree. And it's up to the board to figure out what zoning that needs to be. Does, you know, is this a good use of that land, or does it need to be R1 instead of R3? There's got to be a common ground that we can reach and say, you know, we've been here for how long? Like, how long has the neighborhood been there? How long has the neighborhood been there?
Dates back into the late 1990s, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I've only
96.
Yeah, I've only been there 9 years, but you know, there's people that have a lot of money invested in that subdivision. We have nice homes, we have great yards, we've got a real community there, and this isn't a real community. This is just people coming in and finding a place to live. That's great. People need a place to live. People need an affordable place to live. But there has to be something that can, you know, we have the trailer park, we have the apartments now, and they're not really a problem. But there's not 100 homes in there either. You know, there's a couple dozen trailers maybe, and, you know, 18 apartments, and that's it. So this is a totally different animal than what we live with right now.
They're not next to us also.
Right, and they're not in our backyard.
Have you all driven through the community that we're speaking of?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you want a multifamily home built next door to your house? You know, think about it. That's concern of our community. We have a nice community. We have nice amenities in our community. And I just feel that this is not a good fit because we have nice homes and you're putting a multifamily home back door to some of the property pieces of property. So, thanks.
You're very welcome. I mean, that's up to you if you want to.
I have another question for the gentleman one more time. Actually, if you, I'm sorry, I have a cold, so I'm trying to get through that. If we did have a neighborhood next to it, and say it was R1C or something like that, you wouldn't have the buffer, but there would be no guarantee of amenities then either. Is that something that you guys would be totally okay with, or would the homeowners there have the same problems with having people living next to them and no amenities? Because that's just something I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on.
I don't think a buffer is a problem because we already have things in place that says your lot line is this, our lot line is this. You know, if somebody buys that property and they want to build a house, they have to have built in, there's already laws in place for.
That's only if it's R3, so you would get no buffer for R1.
Well, you have a built-in buffer with the property.
I'm not sure.
I don't think that if the property is zoned to an R1,
that's single
buffer is going to be the fence line.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So.
But, you know, there's restrictions on how close they be to the fence line, right?
The actual dwelling, the setback.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Which is, except for one of the properties, and I hate to be devil's advocate here, but except for one of the properties, the setback will be closer than what's currently being proposed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's what,
For single family homes, yes.
yeah,
And then those would be on much smaller lot sizes, so they could actually, instead of having, what is it, 5 duplexes there, they could literally have 10 single family homes there. Just smaller lots and so forth.
But a single family home versus rental unit is a lot different thing.
Sure.
and so, yeah, that was kind of my question with it, is if it didn't have amenities and it was just single family homes, you don't think your community would have an issue with that?
I can't speak for the community. I can speak for me and say, I wouldn't have a problem with it. You know, they'll have their home, and their home is going to be the way they want it. If they want a swing set in their backyard, put a swing set back there. We have a board of directors that ensures that building requirements are met. Appearance of the home is met. We take care of it. Single family home, it's up to the homeowner to take care of it. If they've got money invested in it, they're going to take care of it. A renter might probably will too, but there's a good chance they might not. Those apartments at 21st, the townhomes that are there now, they're not in good shape. And I'm afraid that's the kind of thing we're looking at.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner.
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on just one second. Mr. Campbell.
Just to expand on Alderman Flores and what he was talking and what the gentleman's response was. Just because it's a single family home does not mean it's a homeowner living in that home.
True.
You have renters that live in Ozark Heights. I live in a subdivision in Northeast Ozark I don't think is as good is as nice as Ozark Heights, but I think it's a pretty nice subdivision. And we have renters there. So just to bring out a point that just because they're single family homes, that does not mean that some company would build homes and rent them out.
We have renters in Ozark Heights as well. And the board of directors.
So I'm gonna have to kind of draw a little bit of a line here because we did close the public portion of the meeting. If a specific question is asked to a specific individual, I'll allow that. Okay. I don't want to cut you off, but we did technically close the public portion. I've allowed some back and forth, which kind of skirts our rules and procedures a little bit. But if there is a specific question to a specific individual, I'll allow that. But otherwise, we went from a bill that almost didn't get a second to go on its first reading to an hour. So I think that's good. I think that's very good that we're getting through some of this, but we have 2 more on the same exact topic. So does any member of the Board of Aldermen have a very specific question, concern, comment? This would be the appropriate time to ask them. And I apologize. I don't want to think cutting you off, but I do loosely follow established. City attorney might say I very loosely follow them, but I do try to on occasion. So if there's no other specific questions, comments, or concerns on this bill from the members of the board, this bill will be held over until the next legislative session. Mr. Flores.
I move that we place Bill 3377 on its first reading by title and description only.
Is there a second? Hearing no second. There will be no call for the reading here. Motion dies for a lack of a second. Mr. Flores.
I move that we place Bill 3378 on its first reading by title and description only.
Is there a second for this? Hearing none, this bill dies for a lack of a second. All right, we'll move right into resolutions. Gardner up first.
All right, I move we agree resolution 1972.
The motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Campbell to read resolution number 1972. All those in favor?
A resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to apply for a local tourism asset development grant from the Missouri Department of Economic Development.
All right. Mr. Parsons.
Yes, and we've got that same presentation, Mr. Childers. It just rolled right into this resolution. So what you have in front of you tonight, I know that a few of you attended the Chadwick Flyer open house a couple, last week. We had a great turnout. Excited to come to you before you tonight as we, not me. This has been a staff effort. This is not a Jeremy effort. This is all the staff has been meeting every Tuesday with our partners at the OTO and partners at Ozark Greenway. We have found an opportunity to potentially go after this grant with approval. This is an ARPA tourism grant. You're trying to do something in this community that creates an economic draw. We feel that the Chadwick Flyer, and you've seen this with our witnesses throughout the country, trails and linear parks can be an economic driver. We've seen it in others. At the meeting the other night, we kind of presented, this thing has expanded. You know, we started down here on our southern end and we had a vision to get to the lake. Now the vision takes us all the way into central Springfield. And Springfield is working with Burlington Northern and Burlington Northern and CU are working together. I mean, this is a true partnership, true community effort. But we've got challenges along here. Yeah, we're moving with some progress right now on the trail. But one of the main challenges, as you all know, we presented this a couple times, is the Highway 65 corridor. So what we're proposing tonight in this resolution is to have the authority to go after this grant and tackle this crossing, whether it be here, there, there. It's, you know, the approximate location of it. But this would take us that next step. It would take us into the full-on design and full-on construction of the overpass. We know from the study that the overpass is the preferred route. So we have come up with a good economic, a good engineered estimate, I should say. Talk about partners, I'd be remiss not to mention the Christian County. Christian County Commissioners heard this last week. And if you look up there, they're as part of the match. That is huge to have the commissioners come in and step in and, you know, potentially put that funding forward. We think that about 3.7 to 3.8 million will get this corridor crossed. Tonight, as a group, we're wanting permission to get the grant application submitted in about the next week. We will hopefully be awarded in 2023, jump right into design. We've got a good head start on it. Construction 2024, finish it out in 2025. There was a lot of questions at the beginning of this, whether or not the EDA would consider this as an economic development. I think Mr. Childers and his group kind of worked with those individuals to get a solid answer. They see it as a potential project, as an eligible project. And that's who we've got going with us right now, which is pretty amazing. I mean, that speaks to what the community is doing. And that's not it. I just wanted to put a few up there, but it is all about partnerships. And we would like to see this project continue. I know one of the questions may be, well, if we're not finishing the property just to the north of the OC, we did get the invoice from Spire. They now have the green light to go forward. I will be sending out updates for you all on that. So they should be relocating that main soon. But with that, any questions? Exciting project, any questions?
The local match for the city of Ozark that's coming from STP urban funds.
That's
That's not coming out of the general fund of the city of Ozark. That's coming from.
Mr. Childers can speak to that. And then also we've got a significant amount of TAP funding that we'll be going after as well.
Yeah, basically the Ozark Transportation Organization has a couple different funding sources. And so it's not, I don't want to say that it isn't possible for the city of Ozark to be able to utilize its transportation sales tax money, because that's exactly what it is. We do budget transportation sales tax money in a line item called grant match. So we anticipate having to go after these types of projects. But in this particular scenario that we put together, I think it was just last Thursday, at the full board, I did make the presentation to the Ozark Transportation Organization to request their commitment to $1.5 million, and that and that was approved. So the Ozark Transportation Organization is putting forth a commitment to dedicate $1.5 million in the TAP funding that Jeremy was mentioning as a part of this this project. But as you pointed out, we can use either STP urban funds or transportation sales tax fund. We just said that was our local match. We haven't exactly determined where we were going to pull that, but we have access to both. To that point, though, there are other TAP funds that are available that we haven't even asked. So we think there's more opportunity to, even if we use that, to be able to get that reimbursed through another TAP grant. So
Well, I think this is a great opportunity, in my opinion. I've talked about for quite a few years, trying to create those safe routes for kids to get to school. This will give a safe route for a lot of kids, junior high, high school age kids that can ride their bicycles from Ozark Heights, from Rolling Prairie, and they can ride them safely and get to school and not have to ride the school bus or not have to rely on a parent to get them to school. It's a little bit further, but at least it's a safe route for them. So I think that's extremely, not to mention the tourism aspect.
Yeah, that's a great point.
There's multiple things that are really good for our community. I've witnessed for years children walking on the north side of town to get to the North Elementary and the middle school building, and there is no safe route through there. There's no sidewalk down in highway, and they'll walk down the ditch. But this, it's multifaceted. It gives a safe route for kids to get to school. It gives a tourism opportunity for us that's kind of unmatched in this area. So I think it's good. Mr. Campbell.
So for the benefit of the audience and anybody that's watching online or whatever how that goes. What I was going to say was we have an opportunity to take a $3.8 million project, and we're going to be all that we're going to contribute, all that we're required to contribute to that $3.8 million is less than $400,000. But after I heard the conversation between the mayor and the city administrator and yourself, it may even be a better deal than that. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, right now we're committing the 375,000 or less than 10%, if you will. But yes, there are other opportunities to be able to even make it a better deal than that. We wouldn't want to guarantee that. We certainly want to present what we think it would be. But yes, sir, that's correct.
So in this grant proposal, we will be submitting this, but we're constantly looking for ways to leverage our dollars. That last grant that we brought to you was nearly $800,000 that we were in for $44,000. So we try to layer when we can these different funding opportunities and maximize these grant opportunities as well. This is fantastic. It's fun to be a part of.
All right, any other questions, comments from the board? Forgot where we're at here. Mr. Gardner, would you like to adopt that resolution?
Adopt resolution 1972.
Second. Motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Galloway to adopt resolution number 172. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Mr. Flores.
Move that you read resolution 1973.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to read resolution number 1973. All those in favor?
A resolution by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, approving one reappointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right, we do have a requirement in our boards and commissions that they not miss more than 3 meetings in any given 12-month stretch. Mr. Wim Oakes has served on our commission for quite a few years. He did happen to miss more than 3 meetings, or he missed 3 meetings in a 12-month stretch, which caused him to be removed. After having in-depth conversations with the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and he feels that Mr. Wim Oakes is an integral part of that board and would hate to lose that wealth of knowledge, and assured me that Mr. Oakes's attendance would improve, and to avoid being removed from the board, I agreed to put this resolution forward for your guys' consideration for his reappointment to the board. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. Mr. Flores.
I move to adopt resolution 1973.
Motion was made by Alderman Flores, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt resolution number 1973. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Second reading, final passage of bills. Mr. Snyder.
Bill number 3400 on its second and final reading, please.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Flores. Place bill number 3400 on its second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter a contract with the Missouri Department of Conservation to cost share a recharge area delineation study.
All right, is there any additional questions, comments, or concerns with regards to this bill since our last meeting? Mr. Snyder, are you still just live, or do you have a comment? All right. All right. No questions, comments, or concerns with regards to the bill? If you'd like to put it up for adoption, floor is yours.
We adopt bill number 3400 as ordinance 22-065.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Flores to adopt bill number 3400 as ordinance number 22-065. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Gardner. Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
Alderman Alder.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Mr. Snyder.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Flores to place bill number 3401 on its second reading by title and description only. All those in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for services with Ozark Underground Laboratory Incorporated for the recharge area delineation study.
All right. Any additional questions, comments, concerns with regards to the bill since the last time it was in front of you? Hearing none. Mr. Snyder. Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Flores to adopt bill number 22-066. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Aye. Alderman Gardner.
Aye.
Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Mr. Galloway.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3404 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Flores to place bill number 3404 on its second reading by title only. All those in favor?
An amended ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, section 405-478, historic overlay district signs.
All right. Any questions, concerns, comments since the last time this bill was in front of you? Hearing none.
Your Honor, I move we enact bill number 3404, ordinance number 22-067.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Galloway, seconded by Alderman Flores to enact bill number 3404 as ordinance number 22-067. May I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Alder. Alderman Alderman Gardner. Alderman Flores. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
All right, Mr. Snyder, back to you again.
Your Honor, I'd like to place bill number 3405 on its second reading by title and description only, please.
Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by place bill number 3405 by title and description.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract for the purchase of a bus from Midwest Transit Equipment Incorporated.
All right. Has anybody formulated any questions, comments, or concerns with regards to this bill since the last time it was in front of you? Hearing none. Mr. Snyder?
To make a motion to adopt bill number 3405 as ordinance number 22-068.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Campbell to adopt bill number 3405 as ordinance number 22-068. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Gardner. Alderman Flores. Alderman Snyder. Alderman Alder. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
All right, that concludes the legislative business. We will jump into report of officers, boards, and committees. Mr. Childers, do you have anything? All right, planning and development. Would you like to give us all the new things that are coming to Ozark?
Yes, just a quick update. Just found out today, Whataburger is scheduled to open December 12th. They believe that's a
December
Monday. To be open. That's the date they're planning to open. The Starbucks in Take 5, they're moving right along that. And then soon you'll probably start seeing some excavation work for the U-Haul facility going in up just north of Sounds of Freedom or south of the Cox Clinic. So that's all I got. Be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
What is the
story? Hey, hold on. Miss Alders first because her light's flashing. Ladies first, Miss Alder.
It's okay. Friendly Farms, what are they doing? Lower level?
They had finished out and keep in mind the report is usually about a month behind, but they have finished out. The lower level is now completed.
Just seating and.
It's that speakeasy. It's down in the bottom level. Yeah, the restaurant area.
Yeah. And then Little Bluebird Deli.
Yeah, in the Little Bluebird Antique facility that's just south of the Casey's or around the new ambulance building.
Oh, yes.
They're adding a little deli inside that facility. Yep.
Good. Another place to eat. And Ozark Mill Maintenance.
That's the facility that is north of the Come and Go on across in on the west side, the building that the city used to own.
Okay.
They're in there now. That's their maintenance facilities. They've been doing a remodel infill there.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to go before I call on Mr. Gardner? Mr. Gardner, floor is yours.
I forgot what I was just saying. L. Point
What's the story with that? Last week, we finished up all their final inspections, everything passed, they made an application for a business registration. And as of Friday, they hadn't paid that. I don't have an update today, but they're pretty much ready to open, and I suspect that they're gonna spend some time trying to get staffed up to open that facility.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Smith? Just to get you on the record.
Sonic come to town. Staff met maybe a month and a half ago with a developer for a new Sonic that doesn't own the local Sonic. They're out in Northwest Arkansas. They looked at a site and we had a pre-application meeting to go through some of the criterias. One of the items that came up was there's an overhead electric line, Ozark Electric, and it was just become to be too costly to relocate that line. So now they're looking at another site along the northern side of town. We've got a pre-application meeting scheduled with them. Actually, take it back. We just had that, went really well. They're excited about that location up by beach volleyball. And so hopefully soon we'll see an application for a building permit.
I'm sure the Ozark community chit chat on Facebook will just be full of great comments about the Sonic coming to town.
So is the Sonic that's here now owned, a franchise owned, locally owned?
Yes, but it's a different franchise looking at the new Sonic.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is it owned by the corporation?
No, it's a local owner that owns several facilities, but it's kind of the same for both of them. The new one is owned by a development group out in Northwest Arkansas, and the one here that's existing is owned by a group here in the town area.
That's interesting that the city could support two Sonics.
Yeah,
What
they
about two
think they can
McDonald's?
make it work. They did note that there's some criteria that they had to be a certain distance from the other Sonic.
Right.
But they feel that they can make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It could be really, a lot of franchises will, if they meet the requirements for two Sonics or two Burger Kings or two whatever to be in the community, the original franchise owner has that first right of refusal to put in, but if they don't exercise that first right, then another franchise would have the opportunity to come in. And I think a lot of people, when you talk about supporting a second Sonic, a lot of people doubted the ability for Ozark to support two McDonald's, and they're both thriving. Same thing with Taco Bell. And I think that kind of speaks to the demographics of our community with so much density on our northern exit that they don't technically come south. You know, they tend to go north for stuff. So I think that's why those are thriving so well. So it'd be interesting to see what a Sonic will do. So, absolutely. Did you have another comment, or you just left your line on? You're good. Any other questions for Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir. Ms. Payne, you had a written report. Would you like to come expound on that, or does anybody have any questions for Ms. Payne in her written report? She's getting a new bus. She's excited. All right, no questions for Ms. Payne. Miscellaneous comments, announcements from members of the Board of Aldermen and or the mayor. I have nothing. Does any member of the Board of Aldermen have anything they would like to speak about at this time? Which aldermen are up for re-election? That would be Mr. Campbell, Mr. Flores, and Mr. Gardner. And the mayor. Yeah. Mr. Gardner has declared he is not running again. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, Mr. Galloway. The motion was made by Alderman Gardner, seconded by Alderman Alder to adjourn the legislative session of the Galloway, pardon, no, Galloway and Alder. Yes, Galloway and Alder.